Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to LinkedIn Tuesdays. It's September 19th, 2023. Please note this event has been recorded. It's currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window will not appear in the recording. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please just put your questions into the chat window. For those watching on Facebook, thank you for joining us. We are monitoring both those feeds. And for those on Facebook, if you have any questions, put them in the comment field. We're monitoring both feeds. We'll be sure to get those questions answered as our speaker takes a break. Also, this is a great opportunity for you to network with everybody else who's on the call today. Put in your name, position you're looking for, a couple target companies, put in your LinkedIn address, and connect with everybody else who's on the call today. This is a great way to expand your connections. Send everybody on the call today a personal note. Let them know you saw them here today on LinkedIn Tuesday and that we should connect, and always send that personal note. So if you'd like to do that, put your contact information into the chat window. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Back in 2008, I started a website called careerdfw.org, a website to help those unemployed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In 2012, I launched a second website, careerusa.org, to help those around the United States. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search You May Not Know. It is available on Amazon, or if you see me in person, I always have copies with me. Since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. I'll tell you about our upcoming program we have this Friday at the end of the session. And since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team, also known as the PIT crew. Remember, your LinkedIn profile, your resume are not going to get you a job. All they get you is a phone call. How well you practice your interviewing skills, that's what's going to get you your next job. So for more information, just go to dallaspitcrew.com on how you can sign up and how you can participate and get that practice interview. Well, we have 4 outstanding speakers who rotate through on a monthly basis to talk about LinkedIn. They each talk about LinkedIn from a slightly different point of view. Hopefully you'll pick up 1, 2, 3 things today, and you'll apply those in your job search. Today, our speaker is Locke Alderson. He's a career consultant, a contract recruiter. He's been recruiting for more than 10 years. And today he's going to talk about how to use LinkedIn for job hunting, strategies to get results. So Locke, thank you very much for being with us. Let me make you a co-host so you can share your slides, and you should be good to go. And we see the Zoom screen. There we go.
I got it.
You're good.
Well, that is my bio up there. As Jeff mentioned, I have a number of years in recruiting, 42 years as a corporate recruiter, an agency recruiter, and had my own recruiting firm and did contract recruiting along the way. During that time, I had 6 times where I was unemployed, and not counting the contracts that ended, I had to go find a new contract. So that 42 years ended when I retired from Oracle in 2010. I've been doing volunteer work in career consulting since 2001. So I've actually had 22 years now in that, and was a volunteer for 12 years before Mullen International Outplacement Firm out of New York tapped me and said, "You've been doing this as a volunteer. Would you like to try it on a contract for 90 days? Well, that 90 days extended for 4 years and 90 days. And Mullen sold out to Lehigh Harrison, a competitor. And I went to work for Lehigh Harrison for a couple of years and finally stepped down at the end of 2019. I'd had some shoulder surgery in summer of 2019. And so my last paycheck with Lehigh Harrison was $15. And I figured that wasn't worth the effort to sign in every day with them. So that's kind of my background. If you'd like a copy of today's presentation, LockeAlderson@gmail, I'll be happy to send it to you. There is a portion of it about networking that I'm not going to cover. Other people, I think Terry does an excellent job of networking, and Ruth Lipsky does an excellent job of how do you drive people to your profile. So that's part of networking. So I will send you that that slide deck if you want that. But as I said, during that 42 years, one of the things I've had when I faced unemployment or looking was turning to the scripture. And one of the things that helped me on that was turning to scriptures like Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a future and a hope. And Jeremiah was writing to the Jews who were faced with captivity in either Babylon or Assyria. So that's kind of the background. But I typically go through Psalms at least once a day to try and offer me some reassurance and sustenance and peace. I encourage you to do that. It helps you out. Job hunting with LinkedIn. What we're going to cover today is why LinkedIn, why you should use it as your profile. I mean, why is your profile so important? Because your profile is basically your headline and you're open to work. And some of you are using the open to work, some are not. I'm going to talk about that. I want to talk about your dashboard, which is now called, I think, your analytics, and about the about section, which used to be called the summary. And also talk about your work history and your skills and endorsements. And then how do you go about optimizing your profile so that you get found? Because one of the things that you want to do on job hunting is to get found. So the first part of the presentation is aimed at helping you to get found on LinkedIn. And how do recruiters go about searching for people? And then how do you go about searching for jobs? And the homework are some items to do for you to do on your own profile. If you haven't done them, I'll encourage you to take a look and try those. But LinkedIn, basically, there are 800 million users. If I can move that out of the way, 850 million users on LinkedIn in the worldwide. It started out as a networking tool for sales personnel, and recruiters quickly learned that there was information for potential candidates there and have glommed onto it, to say the least. It's the #1 tool, the most important one in a recruiter's toolbox, whether they subscribe to a seat license. And Kurt Vandemotter, who is one of the other speakers, he subscribes to LinkedIn full professional version, which is, I think it's $10,000 a year for each seat. And he and his firm take 2 seats, so it's about $20,000 a year. Midge Duncan, another individual that I work on as a co-moderator on our networking group, she's on LinkedIn Lite, and that's only $5,000 a year. So those are the 2 things, but most recruiters don't even have that. They use it and don't pay for it. They just use it as a tool. But somebody has said LinkedIn has been the most irreplaceable tool in my search. The ability to show employers the exact experience and skills that I have on my profile, exactly what got me the job, got me the interviews. So it all starts with your profile. Come on. Your profile, again, you can take a quick look at this as a copy of my profile. It's got a background photo or a banner, got my headshot, and you do want to have a good headshot. It's got your name, it's got your contact, it's got your headline there, which is, you have 220 characters to play with. It's got your contact information, and I've open to work in this particular, the banner is not there on this particular because it was open to only recruiters. So if you use open to work and limit it to recruiters will see that, but everybody else will not. Okay. The name that you use, you want to use the name that you want to be called by. Make it easy for that recruiter or hiring manager to identify you. My legal name is John Locke Alderson Jr. I happen to go by my middle name because my father was John and I happen to name my son John. So it makes it easy. But I do like to play with the telemarketers when they ask for John Alderson. And I say, which one? And they usually say senior. And I say, well, unfortunately, he passed away about 20 years ago. So again, that's what makes it easy for you. Again, what you want to call by. Okay. Filling out all of LinkedIn, all the different sections gives you what's called an all-star rating. That's the top rating. They used to have a pie chart on LinkedIn, which shows you how much of your profile you'd actually completed. But attaining all-star status means that you tend to be the top one in searches if you've got all the categories filled out, if you meet the criteria of the search. Use a professional headshot. Again, it's okay to take a selfie if you will. But if you're using a selfie, make sure that you have a clear background and you don't have a glare with you. Again, that's the kind of thing that you want to have. The headline should be the title of the job that you're actually looking for. Okay. It may be titles of jobs that you don't have right now, the ones that you're aspiring to. But if you don't use a headline, if you don't fill that in, it will default to the last job title in your employment section. Use the open to work section under your headline to list additional job titles. Complete your about section. It's your summary. It's an overview of your career. Use keywords from your profession. Put your contact information on the top line of your about section, because if I'm not directly linked to you and it's not there and I can't open your contact information, I have no way of getting in touch with you except through somebody else. So put it on the top line of your about section, even though it may be in the middle or on the bottom of your about section, and make it easy for them to click through and to call you. Your experience section should have your job title and a description of your duties, a brief description of your duties and some of the results. Okay. If you have an unusual job title, like member of technical staff 3, and I worked for companies that use those kind of titles, describe what's generally called in industry, the generally used term in parentheses. Use the skills from your profession. If you don't know what they are, take a look at those job postings that you're applying for. Take a look at the requirements. Those are the skills that they're looking for. In your endorsement section, okay, people who've said, yes, he's good at this or she's good at this. Education, award, certification, and professional development. A lot of resumes and a lot of profiles that I look at simply talk about when somebody got their degree. They fail to talk about the awards that they may have achieved, the certifications they've attained, and their professional development. What have they done since they got that degree? Okay, that's important to know so that you kept up with your profession. And recommendations from coworkers, that's the equivalent of a letter of reference. And you should probably have 1 or 2, or your most current one if possible. Again, the more that you have, the more qualifications it says that you're somebody that's working there. This again is another take a look at my profile. You have 10 seconds to take a look at what do you see. Again, in this one, I've used the open to work and made it open to everybody. And that gives you the chance to use these titles down there. I've listed 5 additional titles and some additional details, like whether you're working on site, you're working remote, or you're working a hybrid situation. Your headline has 220 characters that you can play with. I think this one only has about 140. Again, I've happened to use the pipe character, which is a shift key above your enter key on most keyboards. If you use the pipe character or a backslash to divide up titles, make sure that you have a space on either side of it, because if you don't, the combined word is not a searchable term in terms of LinkedIn or job boards. Okay. Contact information, as I said. Let's take a look further. These are some headlines that you can use. These are possible headlines. Nothing wrong with being unemployed or retired, but it's not something you necessarily want to broadcast on something as your best foot forward, because it may not be. Seeking new opportunities a little bit stronger, again, but it doesn't describe what you're actually looking for. Remember, you've got 6 to 10 seconds to describe what you're looking for, and that's what's going to get people's attention, get them to click through or pick up the phone and call you. Formerly VP of Finance, again, descriptive except the word formally. It has negative connotations. Experienced digital design engineer seeking new opportunities. Yeah, more descriptive, but what kind of digital design? Okay, what kind of other things that it has had? So that's more descriptive. And again, most of these titles are short to get them on the slide, but they're examples. Here's a little bit longer one. Social media strategist and content manager seeking a new opportunity. Print and digital media, which is implied, PR, an abbreviation for public relations, and marketing and corporate communications. Again, more descriptive that you are, the more likely that people are going to click through to look at your entire profile. Supply chain, procurement, and purchasing, pretty succinct. But again, somebody may be looking for somebody in supply chain, procurement, or purchasing. Likewise, senior accountant, I've used the abbreviation for general ledger. You can use AR for accounts receivable, AP for accounts payable, for cost accounting. Again, the more descriptive that you are, and we'll show that when we take a look at some resumes a little bit later. Executive assistant, there are about 40,000 of them in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Budgeting and event planning kind of narrows the field a little bit. IT project manager, this is again a rather short, succinct one, but it's pretty descriptive for an for a recruiter, particularly those people in IT, because it says they've got ITIL certification, they've been a Scrum Master, and implies that they've got agile technology experience. General manager, aerospace and manufacturing, again, pretty descriptive, very narrow, but very descriptive of what they've done. But you can use something to add to that. You can use adverbs and adjectives to describe that. Here's a list of some of those. And as I say, this is part of the slide deck if you want it. You can use accomplished or award-winning. Again, descriptive titles like that. Start with an adjective. You can use multiple titles. You can bring what value do you bring? And then some examples. Dynamic program manager driving brand awareness. Now let's take a look at some with some improvements. Okay, this is my headline before and after. Notice here, consult with Lee Heck Harrison, recruiter resource. Here it says accomplished recruiting consultant, successful executive recruiter, career consultant, highly skilled technical and professional recruiter, contract recruiter, sought after speaker at workshops and seminars. I think one is a little bit more impressive than the other without being too egotistical. Okay, here's some more headlines to take a look at. Accountant, senior accountant, increasing productivity in highly regulated industries. Again, those would be oil and gas, could be utilities, it could be anything like that that's regulated industry, pharmaceuticals, VP marketing, global marketing manager, okay? Value through effective strategies, increasing sales. Again, buzzwords that stick with somebody's mind as hooks to talk about you and what you've accomplished. They're pretty self-descriptive, like full stack applications developer, SQL, sequential query language, JavaScript, AWS, Amazon Web Services are some of the things that are there. So moving on a little bit, let's take a look at that open to work section. This is what it looks like when you open it up. Tell us what kind of work that you're open to. You have a chance to include 5 titles. If you start to add one, and notice here, career, it has the opportunity from a drop-down list. They have some artificial intelligence. If it's not a field that they recognize, you won't be able to add it. You can also add whether you're willing to work on-site, hybrid, or remote. Again, you can list locations, and this is particularly helpful if you're open to relocating or looking to relocate. And what is your current status? Okay. And who can see who you are? Again, that could be recruiters, or it can be the world or LinkedIn. Those are things that you want to take a look at. And recruiters almost always search their search or limit their searches or filter it by looking at locations. Again, one of the things about job boards and about LinkedIn, you notice that the default setting when you look for a job there is 25 miles. Because as applicants, you've taught recruiters, I don't want to drive or be on the road for more than 25 miles to the place of work. There are exceptions like people who are willing to travel extensively. Okay. But again, because of that 25-mile limitation, that's what job boards adopted as their default standard. You can narrow that down to 10 or 5. When some used to be that Indeed allowed you to narrow it down, or LinkedIn used to narrow it down to 15, but now I think it's 10 and 5, or you could bump it up to 50. If you live here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and live in Denton, they're willing to work in either Dallas or Fort Worth, that's more than the 25 miles. So those are some of the things that you can show in your open to work section. Again, there are people that don't want to do that. The implication that I'm out of work used to be a stereotype and a negative. Again, with all that we've had with COVID and all the ups and downs in the economy in the last few years, people know that people are out of work and it may not be their fault. Now let's take a look at your dashboard or your analytical section. This shows, again, how many profile views I appeared in 160 searches, but only 83 times was my profile I actually looked at. And people looked at my postings that I had. I did a posting for the presentation today, and I think I've had probably 100 people have viewed the posting. So, but if you click the search appearance, and we'll take a look at that in just a minute, we'll show you what that does. This is the features section where you can include things like presentations, and all of my presentations that I do, there are 7 of them there, PowerPoints. They're not necessarily the most current ones that I've used, because LinkedIn today is a little bit different than I did in 2021. Okay, but that's what you can do.
It's also different from them too.
Okay, you have to speak up if you have a question. Somebody was speaking, okay. But if you click that search appearances, this is what appears, okay? The keywords the recruiter or the searchers used, and in this term they use recruiter, and that's hard to know whether they were looking for a recruiter for their company or they were looking for a recruiter to help them in a job search. But again, other keywords will key you in on what they're looking for. And these are just some of the companies where these searchers work. They may not have, these companies are looking for somebody, they may not have an active opening, but they have kinds of jobs that you're looking for. Okay. So that's on search appearances. And those analytics are there for you to take a look at. So if you haven't taken a look at it, take a minute, click on that and see what it comes up. Let's talk about the about section of the summary. This one's a little bit longer than I normally recommend. I know Terry Sullivan recommends that have no more than 3 or 4 lines at a time and break it up with a new paragraph. But this one is extremely well written. This is for a senior finance and operation leader, particularly somebody with financial planning and analysis. Notice they've used FP&A, which is an acronym. If you use an acronym that's not well known, like financial planning and analysis, it happens to be well known among recruiters who look for accounting and financial types. Spell out what it is, because AMA, if you happen to use that, could be American Medical Association, American Marketing Association, or American Motorcycle Association. So those are the kind of things that you can see. But it starts out with up at the top with contact information. You may not want to put your phone number, but you can at least put your email address where you can be reached. And it's used a mix of bold and regular type fonts to highlight certain things. So that's just an about section. That may be a good way to talk about. But again, short paragraphs, usually 4 or 5 lines, and then some accomplishments. Okay, I want to take a look at your 30-second commercial and hone that down if you can. Here are some other examples of summary. And with your summary, you can use a first person, which is not recommended with resumes, but you can use first person here. This one says, I'm a grateful partner and have key competencies. They've listed executive coaching, things that they've done, and their experiences. This is a quick overview and summary of their experience. They've worked at Disney World and those kinds of things. Okay, I'm a strategic, creative, hands-on marketer. If you were to use those kind of things in a resume, people would say, where's the example? Where's the proof of that? So it may be regarded as fluff. But in your profile, you have the opportunity to give examples, to give accomplishments, to give results like that. Let's move on to your experience section. This happens to be from my resume when I was with Oracle Corporation. You want to start out with your job title, the company name and address. Whether it's Dallas, in this case, it was Oracle's headquartered, and now it's headquartered in Austin. At the time, it was headquartered in Redwood Shores out in California, and the dates that you worked there. And your duties and responsibilities, mine is limited to, I think it's 4 lines, a little over 3 lines. I've included 2 accomplishments that I had when I was with Oracle. And I listed happened when I left Oracle. The director of recruiting sent a nice email out to the recruiting staff that I was leaving. I just happened to include it in my profile. But again, people use anywhere from 85 to 95% of the recruiters actually use LinkedIn to find candidates or verify their experience. Things that you can do, LinkedIn has made some changes and you can add additional experience. The 3 that come to mind are those that you can add volunteer experience. I've incorporated the volunteer experience in my resume, but you can have a separate section for your volunteer experience. You can have one for your project if you're project oriented, and you can have one for your last position, your last job. Let's take a look at one for your current position, because you do want to have a current position on LinkedIn, even if you are just looking for a job. Here's for a software applications developer. It might be a financial analyst or purchasing manager. Any of those times you're looking for something full-time, you might include under the company, what's the industry that you're looking in? And then where you're looking, you can put location. As you see, as I start to type in Dallas, give you a drop-down menu of some opportunities for that. But you can add that as a section. So it shows current employment, and that's one of the things that LinkedIn looks for. People that have a current resume like this, showing what they are looking for when they're unemployed, means that they're more likely to get connection requests, more likely to have profile views, and more likely to get messages in return asking for more information or a contact. As I said, contact information about projects. When I was with Oracle and with Siebel Corporation, I hired a lot of Siebel consultants or Oracle consultants. Many of them had project experience. So you can list your project experience, what it is. Each of those, I know a lot of the resumes I got when I was with Oracle displayed people who had worked as IT consultants. So each of the projects they'd worked on usually had a separate page. They had all the details about that. The equipment they'd worked for, how many people, how long a project, what involved, who were they involved with. So you can add a project sheet as well. The next section on your profile is your skills and endorsements. I like to talk about this because skills is one of the other key areas that recruiters look for. You have up to 50 skills that you can select. Most people start to add them. As you start to click on these, you can click on their suggestions and add them up here. Again, if you start to type in a position that is not recognized by LinkedIn's job titles, it won't let you add it. But you can do that, and you can then just click add to your profile. What LinkedIn then does is select 3 profiles. If you don't select them, it selects 3 profiles it believes are best describe you and what you're looking for. But that may not be what you're looking for. Let's show you how to move that. Again, this one was executive search, consulting, and talent acquisition. If you click on these three dots up there, okay, when you do that, the next slide shows that you can reorder your skills and endorsements. If you hold your cursor over the lines, hold down on that. Hold down your cursor over the four lines, you can drag and drop and reorder the search ones that you have, because they may not be the ones that you were looking for, that you want to look at. They may correspond to the jobs that you're looking for. But that's just a way to reorder your skills so that you have your most important ones, the ones that offer the most value to employers. And they're at the top on the first thing that's seen, so that people don't have to click and see more. Take a look at other people's profiles. And the reason that you want to do that is because if you're not getting hits and getting contacts on LinkedIn, you might want to do a search, as I did on this one, for recruiters in Dallas-Fort Worth area. And it showed that there were 26,000 people with recruiter in their title on LinkedIn. So how do you differentiate yourself over those 26,000 people? One of the ways that you can do it is to take a look at some of their profiles, take a look at some of the words that they're using. If those words apply to you and you're not using them, incorporate them in your profile and see if you don't improve your rating. I know where I used to be when I was active on LinkedIn, I would typically show up on the first or second page. That's the first 20 profiles. If you don't show up in the first 100, you're probably not going to show up in anybody's search. So take a look at other people. This is taking a look at another recruiter and what they have. She doesn't have a very good description. She only has 2 words. She has 220 characters that she can play with. But she has other people that she's linked with, and she talks about the open to work in the different kinds of words. Other words for recruiter are talent acquisition specialist, partner. So she's looking, those are the newest terms in recruiting is talent acquisition. Let's move on and take a look at LinkedIn for job hunting. Searches on LinkedIn, how do LinkedIn actually run a search, and what do recruiters actually search for, and then some results for that. Recruiters actually take a look at your score. Each section of LinkedIn has a value, and those values add up on LinkedIn when a search is conducted. Your search ranking is based on the sum of these values. The higher scores appear at the top of a list of candidates that come back. So what you want to do is look for a match of things like your job titles and your current and past jobs, in your headline, your open to work section, and your about section and your employment section. So stuff it full of job titles that apply to your field. Okay. Don't type it in white. That used to be a scheme that people used to do on resumes. They'd list a lot of things in white type font, and they couldn't show up when actually a recruiter looked at it. But that would get a higher ranking because of the search for those terms. Again, recruiters quickly figured out what the people were doing. Those people tended to get dropped to the bottom of the list or into the reject pile. The other things that recruiters look for are keywords and skills. Okay. Again, skills you can find in keywords. Take a look at the jobs that you're applying for. Usually in the requirements or the qualifications section, they'll talk about the keywords that they're looking for if you don't know what they are. Industries, some industries, recruiters look for specific industries. If you're in healthcare, recruiters tend to look for others in healthcare, or they look for a specific company, or they look for a specific type of recruiter with a specific type of education. So those are the key kinds of things that you want to highlight. Education, as I mentioned, is another one, and we'll take a look at some profiles and the search results. Geographic location, I mentioned 25-mile radius. Again, that's been around for a number of years. I know back in the late 70s, I was using geographic radius as one of the criteria when they had to do something for the EEO annual affirmative action annual report, was where candidates live. And that was our candidate pool. They tend to look at prior companies and your length of service. Yes, they do, but increasingly short service in today's economy is not a negative. It used to be called job hopping. It's still looked at by some hiring managers and recruiters that way, but not as many with today's economic conditions. Then they take a look at your summary and experience. Well, let's take a look at, this is the input sheet that Kurt Vandemeyer used. Actually, it's 3 screens, and he can screen through. In this one, it's an old copy, an old screenshot. But there were at that time 710 million candidates on LinkedIn worldwide. Again, LinkedIn, if you have the full LinkedIn recruiter search, it has you worldwide capabilities. The LinkedIn Lite limits you to the United States. But notice the thing that they could do is job titles, locations, skills and assessments, companies, schools, and industries and keywords. So those are some of the things. Kurt, by inputting maybe 20 words or checking 20 of these boxes, can narrow that 710 million down to maybe 70 candidates in 30 seconds, letting the computer do all the work. So let's take a look at what happens when you do an actual results on a search. This one I don't recommend. This one is either a junior recruiter or somebody who's trying for an example. The only word that they used was accountants. Okay. Again, they didn't enter things like titles like senior accountant or cost accountant. They didn't enter any skills or companies, locations, or year of graduation or industries. And notice the number of candidates that drew back of almost 4,300,000 candidates. So it's not a pretty good recruit. It's how difficult to narrow that down to active candidates. But notice that's what is available to a recruiter to look at. So a good recruiter is going to narrow the field down and look for different things. This one was particularly one was looking for a product manager or senior product manager in the Seattle area, possibly the San Francisco Bay Area down in California. They would consider product management and product marketing. Those two tend to be intertwined in a lot of companies. The titles tend to be varied or mixed like that. Multiple duties. They would look for companies with the pedigree. Headquartered in Seattle is Microsoft, Amazon, Fluke. There's another company that's up in that area. Those are some companies that they look for. One of the schools that they had put down was University of Washington, which is headquartered there in that. But notice this particular search only drew 6,900 candidates, actually 58. Again, some of them had made company connections and some were actually following a company. So that's a pretty good starting point for a recruiter to take a look at. There's another search for recruiters. This one was for a project manager in Chicago. Again, they would take a program manager or technical program manager and consider people from New York or San Francisco and have business strategy and analytics. And again, these are the things that they would look for. But in this particular search, it drew almost 43,000. Another thing to look at, remember I said open to work? In this particular one, only 83 people were open to work. Again, I had a recruiter friend, Gail Houston, who's now used to be at EDS and then was into it for a number of years. Did a search for a project manager on a job board. She had 300 responses in the first hour. So that's how many people there are. In this case, there were 43,000 people. If you have a search in the Dallas area, 40,000 is pretty typical of the number of people that have project manager in their search and their LinkedIn profile. But again, this is where a recruiter would generally start making it easy. Recruiters like low-hanging fruit. Who's available, who's interested. Let's move on. How do you go about searching for jobs? Well, there's two ways to do it. There is a search box up here that you can start that way, or you can go over and click on the jobs tab on the toolbar up there at the top. And then you have two choices. You can enter a job title, or you can enter a search location. If you just enter the job title and don't enter a location and haven't searched for whether Dallas or a given location before, it will default to the United States. So again, you want to put in a location like that. So let's take a look now and searching for some actual job searches that I've done over the years. This was searching for jobs, sales representative again, because I didn't define it, it was opened up to the United States, and there were almost 200,000 sales reps in the United States. Okay, it's too big a search. As a recruiter probably has to narrow that down, and they can do that. There are filters that a recruiter can use, or that you can use to enter that. This was searching for jobs. This was the number of jobs in the United States that were open at that particular time. Again, a couple of the filters that you want to use, one of the ones I recommend for everybody is narrow it down to the last week or the last 3 days, because I mentioned the 300 candidates who'd applied for the Gail Houston job in the first hour. Again, there could be that many for a job. If you have an unusual or specialty applicant experience, again, it may be open to a week or a month even. I had a candidate who was a health and environmental safety engineer. I worked up in Arkansas. When I did a search in Arkansas, there were 3 potential jobs for him, and that with no limit on the date posted. We had to open up to the Southwest with Texas, Arkansas, and Louisiana. We come up with a few more jobs to help him out. So that's just a result of a search. And again, this one had a number of people who were available. You can use filters, and that's something. Filters comes up in a minute. I'll take a look at the filters. But this was for a senior accountant in Plano, Texas. Note the default setting for 25 miles. In this case, the jobs there were 144 jobs because I put within 25 miles. I think I put within a week. But if you click on the filters, and there's a filter, all filters over here, you can go through that. This is a screenshot, an older screenshot. Now it's only the first third, the right third of a page, but you have filters that look for jobs. You may be looking for contract or part-time or intern. Most jobs, as you see here, out of the total number, we're looking for, I think there were a total of 2,000 in this pool. 1,800 of them were full-time. So most jobs on most of the job boards are going to be for permanent full-time type positions. But you can narrow it down. Of those 1,800, 634, if you narrow it down to 32 to the last week. The salary parameters was something LinkedIn picked up from Indeed.com. You can narrow it down further. So of those 2,000, you can narrow it down quickly. If you're looking for a job at 100K or above, narrow it down to 83. There's a feature over here called Easy Apply. People have asked, should I use that? I would say you can use it only if it allows you to upload a current resume. And the reason I say that, if you don't, it will actually use your profile, which may not be customized to the job that you're looking for. You can search by industry and by company as well, and by location. So if I were in Allen, I might limit it to Richardson and Garland, and maybe to those areas that I didn't have to drive quite as far. So that's one way to narrow your searches down. Again, if we look again, this is for a quality assurance. I did this for the American Quality Association, a presentation I did for them. It's going to pick up all the kinds of jobs that have quality assurance in the headline. Again, this was for everything from a quality inspector to a quality assurance director. So this one had, I think we had 1,900 jobs that were available in the last week. Okay, so that was too broad for this particular group. They were not too many were looking for quality inspectors, since it was usually engineers and above. So by adding the term manager, and of course the quality assurance would pick up all the manager job, well, why not refine the search and make it easy? So it went from about 1,000 to 174. And you can narrow it down. Notice some of these engineering manager may not be quality manager, or some of the others. The job that's here, it's highlighted, is described in greater detail. There's an estimate of the salary over there. And again, while this says manager, this is a director. This is probably the highest level quality assurance position in that organization, corporate quality assurance manager. So that's some of the things that you can do with that. This one was for an executive assistant. I mentioned Dallas. One of the things is you start to notice that there is a Dallas, Georgia, and there is a Dallas, Oregon. So if you don't fill that in, and you can choose Dallas County, you can use Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, or Dallas, Texas. I mentioned the Dallas, Georgia, because if you're not careful, it will include that. And it's limited to 25 miles on this particular. So another way to look at it, what you can do to make it easy for yourself is some of those jobs, when they're posted, they have something called a job alert, with a radio button up at the top that you can click, move over to the right like it is here at the bottom. And it will send you a notice of any new job that meets your qualification, either daily or weekly. And they come in between 7 and 8 in the morning. Okay. I still get them for some jobs that I've done when I'm working with candidates to find jobs for them. I still get notifications for food service manager in Trenton, Texas. So I don't know how to turn that off, but I continue to get those on a regular basis. But that's just how you can limit your search and help you, because it pushes the jobs out to you without you having to go searching for them. Well, let's take a look now in terms of wrapping up. And then we want to take a look at profiles for you and maybe do some job searches for you. You want to complete your profile. Okay. Use the name that you want to be called by and use a headline. List the job title or titles that you're looking for. In your open to work section, okay, you want to open that up. Unless you're in a stealth mode where you may be still employed, then you may want to limit it to just recruiters. But you do want to let recruiters and hiring managers that you're open to opportunities. And above all, you want to list or include your phone number and email on the first line of your about section. As I said, because if I'm not directly linked to you as a first degree connection, I may not be able to reach out and contact you. In your employment section, use the company names and job titles and duties. Show some results. So what are the measurable results? Because if you can list some measurable results and you think, well, I don't know what some of those are, but if you improved a process or saved a customer, okay, or simplified something, it doesn't have to be dollars and cents, which are the ones that are preferable, but anything that you can do to show your accomplishment is very important. Keywords, shows that you know what you're doing and yet you're a professional. Include the skills from your profession. Okay, and do a people search to find out how you stack up. As I said, if you're interested in the slide deck, send it to me and we'll go from there. See if we can go with a new share, Jeff.
Well, we've got two questions
Okay.
that popped up. The first one is, and if you're going to your link, if you're going to LinkedIn, that'd be great because you probably want to show people how to get there. Is how do you edit your profile without being public until you finish?
There's a button in the settings area that you can turn off. I can't tell you exactly where it is, but go over to the settings and you can turn that off until you're done editing, and then you can turn it back on. So we'll send out your new edited version.
Here, I'll pop mine up so you can see it. Just a second here. So if you go to LinkedIn, click on your, you're going to come up here. I'm sorry, come up here to your LinkedIn.
Jeff brings up a good picture, point here in his background, his banner shot. He's got his contact information there as well. Okay. He's got a Wordle or a word cloud, I don't know which you've used, about his background and profession. He's also got the book that he's written. If you haven't read that book or gotten it, it's a quick read about tips and techniques in job hunting. And it's excellent. I bought a copy for myself.
Right. All right. So to change that setting, you go here to settings and privacy. And I believe it's under visibility. And let's see here. Right here, under visibility of your LinkedIn activity, share profile updates with your network. You want to turn that off, okay? And so you leave that turned off until you've done the very last thing you want to do, and then you can go ahead and turn it back on if you want, but I personally just leave it off all the time. So share profile updates with your network. If you don't, if you have that turned on, every time you make a change, everybody, all your first degree connections are going to get an alert that Jim just made a change, that Jan just made a change. So you don't want to do that.
Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome. All right. And the second question, let's see here. From Scott says, Locke, you mentioned only use Easy Apply if you can upload a custom resume. Does this mean employers can set either method as default, either no resume or use custom resume?
Well, I think on any job application that you want to tailor it to the job that you're applying for, because resumes, like profiles, get looked at in the first 6 to 10 seconds. So if the resume that you submit or your profile that you submit, if the first screen or two that I look at, okay, and we've looked at a couple of those first screens, if they don't show an interest or qualifications in that area, you know, if you're applying for a quality assurance job and all they see is a recruiter on your first screen, they're probably going to say that's not a match. That's
Right.
why that you want to tailor the resume so that the headline, you know, your job titles there include the title that you're looking for, that they're looking for. Include the same thing on your resume. Use the title that they're using, because that's what gets the attention. Just think about your email in the morning, what you do with it if you don't see a title or the subject line or the person line, the sender line, you tend to delete those. So if they don't recognize that, they're probably going to delete it. Now, legally, they can't. With profiles, they don't have to keep them, but with resumes, they have to keep them. It's a federal law.
Okay. All right. What do you want to do now? You want to look at somebody's
Let's take a
profile?
look. Let's take a look at some people's resumes. We have some people. I thought I could get my resume up, but
No,
again,
you can do yours. Go ahead. I just happened to pop mine up real quick, but I'll stop share, let you share yours. If you'd like for us to look at your profile, remember it's out on Facebook and YouTube. Please let us know. Put your name in the chat window and we will call up your profile and take a look at it.
LinkedIn is being very slow at loading. So
You want me to pop mine back up?
I'll see if mine is going to show up.
Okay.
Is
Yeah,
mine
you
up,
have,
Tab?
you have a couple in the chat. You have a couple requests in the chat.
Okay,
Yeah.
Gemma.
I've got two names here, so.
Gemma, what's your question?
Well, no, we've got two names that popped up in the chat window. So as soon as you
Okay.
get, if you can get it up, if not, I'll get mine up.
Get yours up, Jeff.
Okay. Here we go. And the first name was, let's see here, Jim, Jimwey.
It's Nand, I think, is the last name.
Yeah, Jim, is that you, the very first one here?
That's it, yeah, that's it.
All right. So I like the fact that he puts Jim in parentheses, let people know what he wants us to call him.
Now, open up his contact information, Jeff, because he's a second to you. Okay, he's done a good job. He's opened up his phone number, so it makes it easy for us to contact him. Okay,
Now, because I'm a second degree connection, in most cases, you cannot see any personal contact information unless you open up that setting. So that's why Locke talks about being sure to put your contact information in your about section also.
let's see if he's also got it in his about section.
Yes, he does.
He does, but again, it's at the bottom of his about section. Move it up to the top. You can have it multiple times in there. Jeff has it in his banner shot on the top of his resume. Okay. Let's take a look a little bit further. Take a look. Scroll down to his skills section. Okay. He has strategy development and PL development. He's only chosen 2. Okay. For some reason, again, it shows all 50, but they may not be, those 2, strategy development and P&L management, may not be the ones that he wants to show people.
Correct.
So click on, when you do that, click on those 3 dots to the right. When it's only you, you can't do it, I can do it. But they're right over in that area, and you can reorder your skills. One of the options that you have.
And just pull those up to the very top too. Now, it looks like LinkedIn may have changed their procedure again. They used to show you the top three skills. Maybe now they only show the top 2 skills.
Okay, that's possible. Okay. But
LinkedIn
again, you
also
want to pull the
changing all the time.
top 2 that mean the most for you.
Okay, if you put the skills in, do you need to show those endorsements below it, or can you just list skills?
No, the endorsements will show by itself. That's part of the skills section.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, to me, endorsements are sort of a waste of time because people endorse you all the time for things that you may have never, you've never worked with that person for that skill. So I put very little value in those. What I do give is values into recommendations when they've come in. Now,
Used to be LinkedIn when you could checkbox people, you could endorse people. And they've done away with that because it got to be a joke. People would just check 3 and go on from there.
Is it important, the fact that it's a number of years ago, that it's not within the last 3 years, say, that you've gotten a recommendation?
Your recommendations, you want to have current recommendations. Try and get 2 for your most recent employer. Okay. I know, even though I've been doing volunteer work, I was able to get one from somebody, and he'd given me one back in 2020, but he's looking for work again. And so he gave me, because I worked with him again, he gave me a new recommendation. So I sent him the old recommendation back and I said, can you update this? And he did. So it's a current recommendation. But in my field, I work with candidates doing job search. So that's my background in terms of recommendations.
Thanks.
Okay. Well,
so I would
let's see.
recommend, Jim, you may want to reach back out to Eric and Laura and see, hey, can you update? All they have to do is update theirs by maybe just adding a period or adding a space or something, and it will then make it a current, up-to-date recommendation.
Let's try somebody else and try and look at a job if somebody wants to look for a job, Jeff.
Okay, let's see here. We had another, let's see, second person gave me their profile. Let's see here, Kim Jones. Oops. Jim, is this you, the very top?
Yes, sir.
There we go. So oh, look at this. This is great. Information right there. I like your banner. Where'd you make your banner at? On Canva?
No, good old PowerPoint.
Good old PowerPoint. Oh, I like it. Looks really good.
It is good looking. Okay, he's a first degree connection for Jeff, so he should be, he has his contact information will be open, okay? But if you're not a first degree connection, I recommend again, please put your contact information at the top of your about section.
So he's got the banner on it, which is great. He's open to work. He's telling me what he's looking for: vice president of marketing, director of product marketing, director of integrated marketing. Be sure to use the job titles that LinkedIn uses, because that's what recruiters are going to use when they're looking to fill somebody in. So he's on-site, hybrid, or remote. He can start immediately.
That's the additional information that you can provide. It helps recruiters if they have somebody that's available immediately. Again, recruiters don't have to go through the 4 to 6 weeks to wait to hire you, to get you on board. Recruiters want to get jobs off their slates so they can move on to the next one. That's what they're getting paid for. Whether it's a contract recruiter, agency recruiter, or even a corporate recruiter, they get measured. They have metrics that measure their proficiency. Okay.
And this is
He's done a
great.
good job. He's broken up his categories in terms of core management skills, marketing skills, technology skills. Again, those lists are a little bit long. You might want to think about breaking them up somehow, maybe even going to 2 or 3 columns. And you
But I mean, that's for keyword matching. That is great to have on.
Yeah.
Listen, for the most part, people are going to read the top of this and get to here. And unless they're really interested, they're never going to go past that. This down here, these are just for keyword matching.
Yes.
Putting every different thing you've done in there, which is great. All right, let's see here. I got
Does it keyword match off of that or off of your skills?
Matches all of them. It comes off
everything. It
all of
looks
them.
at your entire profile. So good stuff in here, developing. Once again, I don't see a lot of results.
Yeah.
You know,
Those are the duties that you perform. What happened? What's the significance of those duties? What's the importance of those duties?
there's a speaker we have out of Houston that talks about on your resume and on, everything, is that what you put down, what you did, then the words resulting in, and then the result. And you make it real simple for people to say, are you built and led collaborative cross-functional teams resulting in what? Increased productivity, more sales, whatever that number, whatever that is. Once again, he's got his information down here again, which is great.
I was told not to put as much information into your LinkedIn as your resume.
You can have more information in your LinkedIn profile than on your resume.
You should have more.
You can have more.
Yeah, your
I've seen
resume,
you
you're going
can-
to cut down. Your resume, you're going to cut down and just tell them what they want to know from the job description. Your LinkedIn profile is going to sort of maybe have your master resume have, I think, a lot more stuff on there because it's more opportunity for keywords. And you want to show results because people are going to look at, you never know, somebody may not even see your resume, but they may just see this profile and go, okay, but I don't see any results. I don't know what he did. I don't know how successful he was.
Your master profile or your master resume is part of your profile. They can search for a number of things. You can't customize your LinkedIn profile every time. You aren't going to do that every day. Your resume, you're probably going to customize it, probably with the headline of the job that you're looking for and some accomplishments on that for each job that you apply for. But you can't do that on LinkedIn because it's more like concrete. It's static. Okay, he's got a section for volunteering as well. Again, skills is limited to 2, so LinkedIn may have changed that. You're right, Jeff.
Yep, they may have. Well, one of the things LinkedIn's done is that you can now put skills in with every job you've done.
Yeah, you can check
we've got
when
one
you go to
skill
your
list.
skills section, allows you to identify which jobs you use those skills on. And they'll
Right.
show up under each job.
Yeah, so like here, he's now lit his skills with each job, which is really, I think it's more beneficial because, the skills section down here, nobody's going to click and open, show me all 50 skills. But if they do a search, you'll pop up because you picked one of those searches.
So Jeff, you just entered when you were putting in your position, your career position, you just type in skills below it and then add the skills from the skill set
No,
directly?
it's the reverse of that. When you do your skills, it'll give the option to which jobs did you use these on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll pop right up for you. So,
Okay.
I mean, LinkedIn is pretty good about being proactive. These are great. He's got 2 current recommendations, which is great. Publications that he's done.
He's used the honors and awards section, and he's used a number of the different add-on sections that they have.
Right, courses, honors and awards, publications, great.
Great
Nice,
looking
good looking
resume.
profile.
Awesome. Thanks for the feedback.
Okay, Kim.
Good looking. All right, well, we're just about out of time here, so we're not gonna be able to go look for a job for somebody. I don't want to be respectful of everybody's time. So Locke, thank you very, very much. Great information. Once again, if you want Locke's presentation, he'll be glad to send it to you. Just send him an email at lockealderson@gmail.com and he will get that to you. Next Tuesday, our presentation is going to be with Terry Sullivan. He'll talk about how to tell your key contacts and prospects who you are, what you do, and how you can help. Please note that Terry does not allow his presentation to be recorded. So if you want to watch it, you will need to watch it live next week. If everybody will please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Jeff Morris, promise to always send a personal note whenever I send a LinkedIn request to connect with anyone. This includes when I use my cell phone or my computer. Very, very important. Always send that personal note. I'm not sure about Locke, but I know personally, if you don't send me a personal note,
I
don't know
delete
why
them.
we should connect.
I delete them.
We delete them if you don't get them. So send that personal note. Just tell somebody, I saw you here today on LinkedIn Tuesday. I met you at the networking meeting, whatever. Let people know, because the nice thing about that is if you go to look somebody up in the future, click on messages and you'll be able to see when you last got a message from that person and what the history was and where you met that person at. So one of the things we didn't talk about today, but there are white connect buttons and blue connect buttons on LinkedIn. If you're using a desktop, please note this, if you're using a PC or Mac and you're using a laptop or a desktop, the white connect button will automatically send the generic invitation. You don't want to do that. You want to look for click on the person's face, then go to their profile and then click on the blue connect button. Whenever you click on a blue connect button, you will be able to always send a personal note. Now, on a cell phone, on the mobile app, on the tablet, the blue connect button sends a generic invitation. It's very confusing. So you need to open up the 3 little dots, the little sub menu, to get to send personalized invitations. So just be very aware of that. Personally, I don't use the mobile app on LinkedIn except to look somebody up. I do not send requests out that way. All right, Career DFW, Career USA, we're putting on training 4 days a week. Tomorrow, the practice interview team will be in person. We have a real interview you can watch. If you live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, come join us. Christ United Methodist Church, 3101 Coit Road. That is on the southwest corner of Coit and Parker up in Plano, Texas. Meeting from 1 to 3 o'clock. Just follow the signs upstairs to where the meeting is. There will be no online Zoom or Facebook Live tomorrow. Our next online session will be a week from tomorrow on September 27th. This Thursday, being the 3rd Thursday of the month, we're going to talk all about effective resumes. Selecting resume language with Andy Cook will be with us. If you know Andy, on her LinkedIn profile, she talks about being the crown straightener, how to straighten what you do. So check us out Thursday for that. And then this Friday at the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group, we haven't talked about networking at the Friday group for a while. And so we're going to talk with Mike Perry about how to make a networking strategy that works. So you can come join us for that. We are meeting in person or on Zoom or Facebook Live. You're welcome to join the Career DFW or Career USA LinkedIn groups. You don't have to live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area to join the Career DFW group. This session has been recorded. It will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel. On the Career USA YouTube channel, click on playlist. I looked today, I have 540 videos up there. So if you click on playlist, I put every video into one of 7 different playlists. Pick the playlist that you want, in this case, LinkedIn. Down where you see that red arrow, view full playlist. When you click there, up will come a list with all the different dates and topics and titles, and you can go back and find whichever one you're interested to watch at your convenience. If you're not receiving emails about our workshops, please join the Career USA mailing list. You can scan this QR code. It'll generate a blank email. Just hit the send button. You don't have to put anything in there, or send a blank email to Career USA, _ subscribe at groups.io. You'll never be spammed, but what you will get is the title of the day, the topic of the day, and most importantly, the Zoom link of the day. That way you can join us on Zoom. So thank you. Please note, Career DFW, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We have no full or part-time employees. Everything we do is, we just do it from the goodness of our heart. Locke's a volunteer. All of our speakers are volunteers. Everything I've done over the last 15 years has just been to help you land your next great opportunity. So thank you very much for joining us, everybody. Have a great Tuesday, and we hope to see you later in the week. Locke, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me again, Jeff.